everybody, welcome to the channel, welcome back to the channel if you're a returning viewer, and welcome to another car review. Actually, welcome to a special car review. And I'm realizing that was like 4 or 5 welcomes, so you know it's gonna be a special one. It's a big one. Today we're reviewing a Maserati Levante. There's two types of people when it comes to Maseratis, right? There's people who really love Maserati, who think it's a very cool brand with a rich history, a rich heritage and motorsport, and the broader history of Italian automotive manufacturing as a whole. And then there's people who kind of look down on the brand or think it's in a bit of a no man's land within the broader Stellantis group. What's even the point? Just get a Range Rover. These are all kind of things that you'll hear when it comes to Maserati. And personally, I think all of those statements, all of those things that people say are absolutely not true. I really like what Maserati offers in the market. It's something unique. You see, the Germans are so busy focusing on perfecting every little thing and making super high-end powertrains and perfecting the tactile button feedback. And then you have the more newer school competitors in luxury like Lexus and Genesis that are really focused on refining things and making things as refined and smooth as possible, you know. And then you have American luxury like the Escalades and the Navigators, and they're really focused on being grandiose and big and large. And that's kind of what all these brands are focused on doing. You know, everything has their focus. So comparing Maserati and comparing the Levante to things like the X5, to things like the GLE, to even the Range Rover Sport, it's not really a fair comparison, because yes, it's in the same class, it's in the same category, but it's really not offering the same experience. I mean, you wouldn't compare an X5 to an Escalade and expect the experience to be the same. And I think the same approach needs to be in place when thinking about Levante, but also thinking about Maserati as a broader brand in general, because Maserati is focused on something special. It's focusing on emotion. That's really the focus of Maserati as a brand. And everything about the Levante, you could tell, is about that emotional experience and providing that emotional experience in a category that isn't necessarily always the most exciting category. Let's be real. The mid-size luxury SUV space, sure, there's some powerful cars in there, but it's hard to feel excitement all the time. So everything in the Levante, from this soft red, you know, leather that I'm sitting in here, this interior, to the unique stance that the car has. It has these really nice Trident looking wheels, and it sits really nicely on those wheels. And all the powertrains sound so nice. All the V6 engines, the V8 engine, everything about the Maserati Levante is really designed to excite. And everything really does get me excited about this car. I mean, let's start with the powertrains. There's 3 powertrains offered in North America during the life cycle of the Levante. Not now, because it's in the final year, but there were 2 tunes of the V6 engine, and we're sitting in the higher tune of the V6 engine right now. The entry-level tune of the 3-liter twin-turbo V6 had right around 330 horsepower, and the one that we're in today has about 430 horsepower. It's the same engine with a higher power tune. And then also it had a version with the same V8 from things like the Ferrari California or the Ferrari Portofino. And that is, to me, just something that's amazing. I mean, that's really not something that you find in most SUVs, right? Like, I mean, I think everyone can agree that a Ferrari V8 is an exciting engine, and the Levante offered a Ferrari V8. That is crazy. And what's also interesting is that the V6 engine that we're in right now, we're in the mid-level one, but also the entry-level V6, it was actually designed by Ferrari. So it's built, I think the engine block is built at a Chrysler plant, and then it's shipped to Maranello in Italy for Ferrari to complete the final assembly of the engine. And that's also something that's rather interesting, because again, that's not really something that you get in a lot of SUVs. I mean, who could say that they have a Ferrari built engine, whether that's a V8 or a V6? And by the way, all 3 of those engines and all 3 of those powertrains are mated to an excellent, really an excellent ZF/ZF, depending on where you are, 8-speed transmission. It's a transmission that's widely used in the industry, and it really is a stalwart. It's smooth, it's snappy, really the perfect transmission for the engine offerings that come with the Levante. And driving the Levante on these very beautiful Bear Mountain State Park back roads, a really beautiful area here. Driving on these back roads, you can tell me that it's a heavy SUV. It is a really heavy SUV, but I tell you back, it doesn't really matter because it feels so buttoned down. It feels so planted in sport mode, and the 440 horsepower coming out of this V6 engine feels more than adequate. It really powers the Levante well, and it adds to an overall joyous and rewarding driving experience on back roads. But I mean, we kind of all knew that, right? Like the powertrain and the driving experience was always going to be the best part about a Maserati. But what about the things that typically haven't been the strengths of Italian car makers? And let's start with the interior. Firstly, I just want to say, I happen to think this interior looks absolutely beautiful, especially in this two-tone leather combination. The way the red kind of flows down in through the middle, and the way that the door cards kind of all align from front to back. It's a very good use of the two shades, the two contrasting shades of leather. And in 2024, it feels like a cabin that's a bit more old school. It feels like a cabin that's a bit more tactile, and that's something that I like and I enjoy because everything's moving towards screens anyway, so might as well enjoy a sumptuous, fine Italian leather interior while we can. And speaking of the leather, it does feel really nice. The build quality of the interior is phenomenal. All the materials are top-notch. The leather is super soft. It almost feels like very bougie kind of Italian artisanal leather. Not that I have any experience with bougie Italian leather, but this is what I imagine it would feel like. And that's the niceness of the experience in the interior of the Levante. Don't get me wrong, it does feel old. There's no full screen digital dash. The screen in the middle is rather small. But when it comes to creature comforts and features, everything you want is up there. Adaptive cruise control, active lane keep, a heads-up display is not option on this one, but it did come with a heads-up display if you wanted it. Panoramic sunroof, CarPlay, Android Auto, fast infotainment screen is based on Chrysler's Uconnect system. It's really a great interior in terms of features that you want from a luxury car. It has lumbar support, the seats adjust any which way. Yeah, fully loaded in terms of features, great build quality, and great material selection, if not a bit dated in its overall look. But I mean, come on. The Trident behind me and the Trident on the clock in the middle, that's got to add some points, right? That takes away from some of the dated look. It adds a little bit more charm. A lot of people and reviewers love to call out the fact that there are Chrysler Dodge Group, Stellantis Group parts in the interior of the Levante. And you can see them. I mean, there's the buttons on the steering wheel, some of the window switch gear, the cruise control and wiper stalks, the infotainment, some of the switch gear in the middle, even the infotainment, or the digital dash display. All of these things are from the Chrysler parts bin, yes. But is that really a bad thing? And really ask yourself if it's a bad thing, because part sharing is nothing new. The Volkswagen Group does it extensively. Any other large automotive conglomerate is going to part share because it just makes sense in terms of financials and allocating the overhead for some of these things. And my take on this is, if the part itself doesn't feel like a low quality part or an entry level part, then there's no problem of sharing that part across the range of products. I mean, and none of the buttons or switchgear in here feel cheap or feel like they're of a lower quality. Sure, you'll see them in other Chrysler and Dodge products, but there's no harm in that because they still work very well with the overall interior design of the Levante and they feel fine. So I don't really see an issue with that, but it is a point to be considered and point to be noted that some of the switchgear and interior tidbits are not as bespoke as you may find in certain other luxury brands. And we can't really talk about the Levante without talking about the way the car looks. And I don't know about you, but from my perspective, the car looks amazing. It looks incredible. And I hope that many others agree with that sentiment. You know, it's a very nice Italian looking SUV. It's very aggressive up front, very refined in the back. It has a great stance when it's on the road on these large gloss black Trident wheels and this Bianco something or the other paint color paired with the gloss black accents. It really, really looks nice. It looks aggressive, it looks elegant, and most of all, it looks like a little mini Italian supercar SUV. I mean, it definitely looks like something that you'd be able to put in the same showroom as a Purosangue and it would attract eyes. You know, that's what I think of when I think of the Levante. That being said, I do think it needs to be spec'd very well, because some of the entry-level Levantes, if it's in a bit more of a dull color with a smaller wheel, it doesn't really have the same hit. It doesn't hit the same as a Levante that's been optioned up nicely with some large wheels, a nice contrasting paint scheme. You really got to option a Levante well, but when it's optioned well, it really does hit hard, and it goes up there and competes with those super SUV looks that some of its competition has. So why then should anyone get the Levante? What does the Levante offer that its competition doesn't? And there's big competition out there. Things like the X5, things like the GLE. These are industry stalwarts. They're big foes by industry behemoths, and everyone knows that these cars offer a great balance of what they're looking for. So where does the Levante fit in? And I think it really boils down to one word, and that word really is excitement. The Maserati Levante excels at delivering excitement, and that goes from the aggressive yet refined exterior to the very sumptuous Italian feeling interior, to the way that you feel from hearing the engine notes that the various engines make, whether it's the V6 options or the V8 option for sure, to whether it's knowing that the fact that these engines are made by Ferrari. You know, the V6 is assembled by Ferrari and the V8 is just straight up a Ferrari engine. So if anything, the Levante, and not that there's anything wrong with this anyways, isn't really just a Dodge or just a Chrysler like some people say, but it's actually a bit of a baby supercar. It's a bit of a baby Ferrari, really. That's quite the take. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about the car. Let me know what you think about the brand. There's a lot of opinions out there, and I want to hear all of them down below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the support. I appreciate the feedback, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching the Auto 101.